And here we are live. Hey, it's Happy Monday. What episode is this? 14? 13? No, 14. Episode 14. Here we go. We are going to go and. What am I looking at? Oh, this is our Calculate Best Game. Yes, it is. Okay, so here's what we ended up doing. Or what I ended up doing, what we ended up doing. I saw we because we were all kind of figuring this out together. So if you look at the top there, I'm going to zoom in. This is this is the set. And I call it a variable set because we're going to need a set of these for each level. And you see the LV1 indicating level 1. So this example is based on two-ring gameplay. And it's just an example. It doesn't matter what level this is or how many game numbers are moved. It's more the concept of the formula. So you see we have the number of gameplays moved, or number of gameplay moves. So that's every time you move a ring in the gameplay, it's counting. So it took me so many moves to win. Then the number of games, so think of that as attempts. So I played a game, started over, played another game, started over. Then the hold variable is where we need to do some calculation based on best score. So we need to have a bucket that we just sort of share a value. We're going to pass a value over there. The number of moves is going to go in that. So it's going to be the same value twice. The same value is going to be in, let me get a different color here and I'll show you. The same value is going to be in here, level 1 moves, and also in level 1 num holds move. Num moves hold. And then we're going to calculate whether or not num moves hold is less than the best game score. Because we're going to pass that in the best game score in the first one. And then the lowest number of moves for any game at one level will be best score. And then you'll see down there at the bottom, just below that in orange, which game refers to which level. Now, if we look at the actual formula, this is how it works. So it starts out down here. So I've got moves. Let's say game 1. I move 12 moves to get game 1. Then we pass that. We use a trigger, and we basically set another variable with the value of this variable. And that's where we move that value over to num moves hold. So now that same value is in both of those buckets. Now in the first game, we also pass that up here to best score. So the same value is in 3 buckets at this point in game 1. And you'll see that trigger, this one right here. Add the value of, the way that reads is the trigger. So just take what's in hold and put it in best game. If the number of games equals to 1, so we're on the first game. Now, game 2, let's say I get a lower score. Now I put it over here and I replace the value. So now those two values have the same number in it. And then up here, we've got a different trigger that says the same thing. Now, I want to equal set. I don't want to add it, because if I add it, it's 9 plus 12. I don't want to do that. I want to replace the best score value. So I'm replacing 9 with 12 if the hold value is less than the current game value and we're on the second game or better. You follow? Piece of cake, right? Anyway, that's how it works. And then you just use that formula for every game. And then it works just fine. And then over here is we need to keep these values, because these values have to get carried over to that overall score. So that's what I'm wanting to kind of put together today, if that works. Is this episode, this is 13? No, this is 14. And I think I said 12 right here. I can't remember. 25. Yeah. Whatever. So let's see. I'm going to turn on this one and turn off that one. And I'm just getting storyline set up. There we go. And here we go. Hey, Kelly, how are you, sir? I wasn't expecting to see you today, buddy. How are you doing down there in the? You're in the Houston area, correct? I think so. Make sure my layers panel is not in the way. There we go. Okay, so oh, you're in Dallas, a little farther north. Okay, yeah, we got a lot of friends down that way. Unbelievable. All right, here's what I did. I added this sort of starter screen. So when I publish this out to play testing, then this is how it works. You start level one in a two-ring gameplay, and then you go to two-ring gameplay, and then I put each one of these in their own scene because I'm not sure if I want to add more, going forward. And then when we get to, here's where those formulas I was just showing you. Here's those three triggers that evaluate that best score. Now I just showed you in the sketch, and then like I said, we just follow that pattern. But now in here we use the level 2 variable, so we have a different set of variables per game level, and then we get to the win, and I added another button. You can either play again or go on to the next level, which takes you back to the start. So let's play it out, and I'll show you how these two levels work. And now it's just building onto it. I think we've got the structure. I just want to put that overall score piece in, and then I'll send it out as a play test. That's the plan. Okay, let's see if this works. It should work. I didn't do anything to it since I tested it the other day, so it should still work. Cue the Jeopardy music. You know what I should do now that I'm learning. I say this now. It's only taken a dozen episodes or so. It seems like the first time I boot up Storyline, the very first time I do a preview, it just takes forever. Maybe I should do that before we go live, and then it boots up pretty quickly after that. But this first episode or first launch seems to take forever. I'm looking all over. I got all kinds of stuff going on over here. All right, so ring two rings. So I click on this button and goes to the first game. So here's our prototype sort of. I moved some things around. So I moved the hold value down here in the lower center, and then I moved our little ring positions down here out of the way because I had all 5 rings, and it didn't matter because I didn't have them all. So I just put them here. So let's. We know that this game is 3 moves or less. So I'm going to get more than 3. So you see the moves down in the lower left corner. There's 1, 2. Now 3, that would be a win right there. I'm going to move it over here and just kind of add some score to it. Come back, 5 and 6. Now we should see all 3 of those values equal 6, and they do. So best game is 6. It took me 6 moves, and this hold, it won't be there. We're going to move that off screen. We don't even need the reference in this case. Once we go, once the final production goes into place. And we're on game 1. So I'm going to play again. Game 2, games goes to number 2, down in the lower right, you see down here. Everything gets reset except best game. Best game stays at 6 because that was my first game. So let's get another score. Let's see if we can get, let's see, 2, 3. Let's go with 4. Now what happens here, moves is going to change to 4. Everything's going to change to 4 again. And best game should also change to 4. Right, so I got a better score this time. Now, if I get something more than, let's do something higher than 4, just to make sure that it doesn't reset. So this is 5. Now, moves is going to change to 5, but best game is going to stay at 4. Yeah. See how that works? So that's kind of cool. And then I also put the lock on the main thing, so you have to get a win. So you have to get to this panel where you win, where you get to the next level. And then when you get to the next level, it unlocks. So you have to get the 3 to get to the next level. And then now we go to ring 3 or 3 ring gameplay. And now it's the same gameplay. It's just more rings. And I'll just do 1 just to make sure it's working. So this is 7. Minimum, there's 6, so 7. Let's go 7 here. And then 8. And now it's not a win, but my best score is 8. Play again. Now I'll get 7. And see what happens here. This should go, now my best game should reduce to 7 and show the winning. There we go. And then, now I've set it here next level just as pro, because then that'd be 4 ring and then 5 ring as the levels. So everything works. Prototype is, hey, there's Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie. Stephanie's in the house. What we can do now is I want to build the overall score. And what I mean by that is if we go back to the iPad just for a second, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's pull this up. Let's go back. It was an earlier sketch. Right here it is. There, you see the overall scores. So this has kind of been revamped a little bit. We haven't added the undo thing that Tracy suggested. The replay, that's going to be pretty intense. I'll probably save that to last. But you kind of get the general idea. But right up here, this is the one I want to build. So that any time, no matter what game level I'm at, I can go check my progress. And I want to be able to, how many games did I play in that level? What was my score per game? So what is that? How does that work? And then what was my overall best score at that level? How do we do that, right? And we need all 3 levels. So what does that look like? Because I could build that now, or I could build that. I can build that now, or I can just go ahead and start building game 4. But game 4, you see how many layers are in 3 ring gameplay. So game 4 is going to be exponentially quite a bit more than that. And I was thinking about what's the most efficient way. Do I just copy this slide and then just start rebuilding it? But no, because what's going to happen, every one of these positions change, because I've got to move all 3 of these drag items. All 3 of these drag items got to shift up 1 height, so I can accommodate ring 4 at the bottom. Now the first couple of layer moves with ring 1, I can just copy the layers over. But then the numbering changes, the triggers change, the variables are going to change. So I haven't really figured out what the best approach to that is, but I'm going to go the easy route today. It's Monday, and I'm just going to add another scene, and we're going to call this, what are we going to call this? This is overall score. Overall score. Overall score. Now, what does that look like? How do I get there? Let's see. In here, each one of these layers have this little label, so I need to find a piece of real estate that's not being used somewhere. Probably just up here in the upper right corner, maybe. I like that dark green for some reason. I'll just put it up here. And let's see, does that interfere with anything? We get to the wind. See, I'm hiding it. Oh, you know what? Where did I put that? It doesn't go here. It's got to go on the base slide there. Like that. Now, does that hide? It does. So, just for out, everything's got to get, oh, you know where it's going to go? I'm going to put it right here for now. That way it's kind of out of the way. Obviously this entire visual interface has got to get revamped. I'm not worried about that because everything is, it's not going to impact the gameplay. So I can put any kind of, I can move things around. That's not going to be a problem. This is going to jump to our slide in our overall score slide, and we're going to call this BTN my scores. That's fine. Now I need to grab this button and put it on the 3-ring gameplay. Same position down here at the bottom, and it's got the same I don't know about you, but this little extra 1 here really, here's the thing, watch this. So you can't just take the 1 out because it still shows up as a copy. What you have to do is add just some other character to change the label and then come back in and take it out. It's kind of irritating, but it doesn't have to be done. It's just one of those OCD things. I don't like that little extra 1 next to it there. Okay, where are we at now? We are, you know what we have to do? We have to, how do I know? You know what, we need that on the base. We need it up here too, don't we? Let's put it here. And here's the thing we have to do. If I jump to the scores, now I can make it a light box. That would be a lot easier, I think. But I don't know that I want to do that just yet. Here's what I'm thinking, because what is a light box? What's the advantage of a light box in storyline? It's always going to go back to the place you came from. You don't have to add any extra coding or triggers or variables or anything like that. So wherever you launch the light box from, when you close a light box, you're always going back to that location. If you want to do it otherwise, then you have to build in your own. If I go from 2-ring gameplay over to overall score, then when I go back or close, then somewhere on overall score has got to know where I came from. So I'll need like a true-false variable for each one of these slides, which is not, you know, it's not too much to figure out. It just depends on if that's what I want to do. So I'm just going to do, let's see, jump to lightbox slide, and we'll just look at it to see if that's Let's see if that looks like. So, and it's not working. Why not? Why not? Jump to like, oh, I didn't assign it. I changed it, but I didn't assign it. Okay, let's try that one more time. Now let's see what that looks like. So everything goes gray. And see this, visually this bothers me. There's the title in the background. That needs to slide down behind it. I mean, obviously I can put the scores here. Whatever color tone or whatever color design that I do, this is kind of not the design I was thinking about. Why? Because it's a, I don't know if you can tell, it's kind of too small, because if I want to run this on an iPad, that's an awful small dot for my finger to tap. And I can't change the color. But I do have the ability to go back to where I came from. So since we're doing such a complex thing, let's just keep things complex. What do you think? We'll just do it that way. And then we need some, I did it already, so I've got some true false variables. I was already thinking ahead because we created all these other variables that I mentioned in the for the best score. So those are all ready and prepped, ready to go. So these true false variables are all set to false. So what I would do is level 1, 2. You know what? I need I need one more. We'll just call it level 0, and that's start. Let's just keep things consistent. Level 0. So level 0 will be the start page. So on here we would do, when you click on this button, you flip the variable to true, level 0, because that's where we're at, equals true when I click. Now I got to move that above the navigation trigger to make sure. So here's what happens. We click on the button, we set that to true, we go over to overall score, and then we need some type of a close button. So I'm just going to add a button here, something different, maybe this up here in the corner. Oh, I don't know. I'll fiddle with that later, but no outline, and I want to do something like that. And then what we do is we jump back to where we came from. So jump back to start when a user clicks if what? If level 0 is equal to true. And then when we get back over to the start, so the value is true now. But it's already true. It's already true. So if I click it again, it's not true. So what I need to do is reset it back to false when the timeline starts. So they're already false. So you say, well, they're already false when the timeline starts. Why do I need to set them again? Well, because once you leave and come back, remember we reset it to true. I don't want it there. Oh, I know. when the user clicks, it's when the timeline starts. And we want it to start on the slide. There we go. So that's going to reset it back to false, because when I leave to go to that overall score slide, when I come back, this timeline is going to restart, and then I'll reset it back to false. And I know I'm going to need, why does that keep doing that? Oh, because I have the objects that, let's do this. Copy, paste, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's just go ahead and set these up now and get them in place. I don't have to worry about them later. Three and 4. There we go. Okay, now let's test this out, right? So let's think of what's happening here. We're just testing this first slide. If I click on the My Overall Scores button, it's going to take me to this slide. And then this slide is going to determine where did I come from. Well, I came from here, so it's going to send me back there. Now, with only one working, it shouldn't matter. It's the only trigger I've got in there, but it should work. Well, it doesn't matter. It's going to work anyway. I mean, that's the way the trigger's set up. So I do that, and it's going to show up here, and then I click on this button, and it goes back. Yeah. Big deal. Let me get rid of these buttons. All right, so the big thing, though, is I need 2 more of these. So jump to 1.2 or 2.1 if level 1 is true. And 1.3 if level 2 is true. So if you think about it, they're all false when we start here. And the only reason one of these values will get clicked to true is if I click on that button. If I don't click on that button and I click on one of these gameplay buttons, then that value is always going to be false. So only one of those values is going to be true at any one time. You know what? I don't even need these others here because level 1 will never be clicked on here. So that's extra garbage here. Now that I think about it, we don't need these. Because this slide is only impacting this variable against this trigger. So I need this trigger over here. And this is level 1. And then also set level 1 to true when the user clicks. Yep. And then we do the same thing on this one. Put that here. This is level 2. The one thing that's throwing me off is level 2. Maybe level 1 should be the start because the 2 is throwing me off because it's 3-ring gameplay. I don't know. Yeah, I might change it later. Let me just grab this one. Set level 2 equal to true when the user clicks. So 2 works. Ring 2. Level 1. Start. Level 0. And then go over to overall score. And now level 1, level 2, level 1, level 2. Okay. Let's give it a whirl and let's see if that works. It's going to work. And this is one of those tips, right? So we can think about all the fun stuff and the pretty stuff and all that, but this type of, I always want to make sure I get all of the structure, the navigation structure, sort of the infrastructure, if you will, the framework. You get all that in place and get it working, and then you can come back and add each, you can do all the other stuff that you want. So here we go. We're going to launch the slide. We should come back. That's right. So we go to level 1. I launch the scores. I should go back to level 1. Yep. And then I have to win. Because I can't just have a back button. You have to, once you get in, you got to play the game. Go to next level. Ring 3, level 2. Check my scores. Come back. I should go back to where I came from. Oh, that didn't work. So we were on level 2. And I clicked on level 2 is false. Set level 2 to true. Go to overall score. I'm at overall score. Go back. If level 2 is equal to true. But it didn't. It went back to level 1. All right, let's see what happened here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to put all of the false here because here's what happened. You remember I was at the level 1 and it's set to true. And then I played the game and then I went back to the start. Remember I took all those because I said they were useless. I took all these out. I came back to start, but level 2 was still true. So then when I went to level 1 was still true, and then when I went to level 2, this value was still sitting at true. So the way that trigger stack works is the way Storyline does this is Storyline actually evaluates the condition first, whether that's a true or false statement. Is level 0 equal to true? If so, then execute the trigger. If not, ignore the trigger, go to the next trigger. Well, this was sitting at true still. Both of them were sitting at true, but Storyline sees this trigger first before it gets to this one. So I have to reset no matter where you're at. I'm going to have to reset all of these just extra management. I'm not really worried about it. I was just trying to keep things clean, but now I see where this is going to be important to make sure. And this is why we build that navigation structure first. This is important. We test out the navigation experience. Because if you spend all your time in the weeds getting down those rabbit holes, and then you run into problems like this, and then you got to go back, and a lot of times it's harder to go back than it is to just figure all this out on the front end, and then you don't have to worry about it once it works. It's out of the, check it off your list. Level 2, level 3, level 4, and there we go. Get rid of that. Let's go over to 3-ring gameplay. 4, 5. Change these up. Now this should take care of anywhere we're at now. it shouldn't matter. All right, last one. And then we'll just carry this forward into the other games. All right, let's give it another whirl. Yeah, Kelly, most of the time it does. But just thinking about how storyline does exactly what you tell it to do. And a lot of times it's not understanding what the behaviors of storyline. We know what a trigger does, but how does triggers interact with each other in the stack and the flow, and how does that? So anytime you're using conditions, storyline is going to evaluate the condition first. And then if that condition statement is true, then execute whatever trigger the condition is tied to. If not, ignore that trigger and move to the next trigger. Because the idea of condition is it's either one or more. So it's either do this or that. So it's the equivalent of if then else, in sort of a sideways way of doing it, I guess. All right, so that takes us back to, let's try it again. So there's that one. Now we'll go to ring 2. 2 ring. I got to play. Well, I can still pop it in. You know what though? Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. Did you see that? Did you see that? What if I start a game and I think, oh, I want to go check my scores. And then it resets the scores, resets gameplay. Now, is there a way to fix that and prevent that? So if I leave and come back, it's in the same position, I'm in the same gameplay move. Can I fix that or prevent that from happening? The answer is yes. How do you do that? Just like we did with the slides, I have to know where I'm coming from. So I would have to have some kind of a true-false variable on every layer. And then when I left, that button would trigger based on that true-false variable. And then when I got way over there to overall scores, when I come back, when the timeline started here again, it would evaluate which one of those layers, all depending, it's like 50 layers, which one is true out of the whole 50, because only one can be true, and then show that layer. And don't interrupt any of the gameplay moves or the variables or anything else at that point. That's a lot of triggering to do that. So to accommodate that, I mean, it can be done, but it's a heck of a lot of work. What I'm thinking is that maybe I want to check my scores, but instead I pop a little layer that says, are you sure? You know, like one of those little alert prompts that says, are you really sure you want to close this document? You know, those kind of things. Are you sure you want to leave? If you do, you're resetting your game. Right now, I have to think about that. Because if I see I'm still sitting on 3 moves, so I'd have to reset that back to 0 too, if I did that. So there's a couple ways to do it. I'll have to give that more thought, but that's a new discovery. Yeah, now I have to play again because I kept messing around. Let's play this, and next level, and 3 ring, and this should go back to 3 ring. Yeah, okay, so that navigation works, but we've discovered a couple things. So if you go check your scores in the middle of a gameplay, you're going to lose the plays. That's the easiest way to solve that problem. But maybe put a little alert or a prompt up that says, "Are you sure? Because if you are, you're going to lose your game. Why don't you wait till you're done and then go check it when you're done, and then you're not going to have to worry about it." So that's, or one way to solve that problem too is just take this button just take this button right here and just move it to the win layer. Just put it here on the win layer. Meaning once you start a game, you can't check your scores. So you don't even give user opportunity to check their scores. They can check it here, maybe. No, that wouldn't work either because if I come back, it would start a game over, and then I wouldn't have I'd have to play the game again in order to get out and go back. I don't know. I have to give it some more thought. Several options to do here. But that's neat. And that's why we do it this way first. This is why we do this now. Because see everything that's coming up. If you try to do this later and you got all your graphics in there, and you got all your stuff in there, and you're like, oh no, that's not going to work. I got to move the button, or I got to do this. Then that could totally like derail production. That's why we test it out and prototype these things now. Figure all that out. And then figure out what every one of those options, any one of those is doable. It's just level of effort, right? How long? What's the value of doing one way over the other, and how much time do you have to do it? That's the important thing. All right. So what are we doing here? We're gonna start putting in. I'm gonna grab this little header here. Because I like that font. My overall scores. And then we have four panels, if you will. So let's divide. Let's divide this up. What's this thing? What is this? What are we doing? What's the width? It's 1024. And I don't want to equal, so let's see. All right, so I'm trying to do this in my head. Hang on. I have to get my calculator out. What is 1024 divided by 4 is 256. And we want some gap. So if I take 250, let's say 250 wide, that gives me 1,000, so it gives me 24 pixels. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try that. Let's go with 250. And we'll just put 4 of these out here. And here's a pretty neat trick. So we take the right one, and we're going to line it to the right. And we take the left one, and we're going to line it to the left. And then I'm going to just use my arrow key. And I'm going to move it. So, and what it does, that moves it. I think it's 8 pixels. Let's just double check. So you'll see it's 0, and if I click my arrow key, it goes 8 pixels. Okay. So 8 pixels from the right edge, 8 pixels from the right edge and the left edge. I'm going to go 16 pixels and 16 pixels. And then I'm going to select all of those. And what happens, Storyline anchors the left and right objects. And it'll distribute whatever's in the middle. So the 2 anchor, when we distribute horizontally, so we know that that's too wide with a 16 pixel border. So I'm going to come down to 44 and do the same thing. So I've got a little bit of a gap, but I want to go to the right here, go back to the left, and then 16 pixels in, 16 pixels in, and now see what that looks like. It's a little better. I want a little bit more gap there. So let's do, I know there's probably a faster way to do this, but I'm going to go down to 236. And I probably should have used a grid pattern that I have. I've got a grid pattern set up for this somewhere. Oh well. This is for those that don't have grid patterns. And we're just going to do this. And let's see if that looks any better. Yeah, I like that. That's got a nice balance to it. Not too worried about the height right now where they're positioned vertically. Because I don't even know how much space I'm going to need. But I know I don't need them all that bright. Something like that for now. And then we're just going to group these because these are just going to be static sort of content holders. We'll just group those, send them to the back, and lock it down. There. All set up, ready to go. Now, what was it that we wanted? We wanted so it's level 1. And what did my things say here? Let me look back on the iPad. Number of games, score per games, number of games, so the number of games, scores. Ooh, how are we gonna do that? Score per game. So we put best score on the top. And how many games? Because we only have so much. I mean, if you play 10 games, we got enough room to show all the scores. So maybe we have to put a limit. Maybe there's a limit to say you get 5 attempts. If you don't win, then the game automatically starts over. Kind of put sort of some pressure on the player, you know. Scores per game, number of games, scores per game. So this reference then would be percent LV1 num games. Is that right? Is that the right num games? Best game, num games, yeah. Best game, number of moves. But we don't have, oh, you know what we don't have? Oh, yeah, we do. I have to think about this. Do we need another bucket? Because num level 1 num moves so we think about it, I'm gonna have to sketch this out. So if you think about it, what happens after the first game, right? We put it in the best score, we have that hold, and that we can carry the value over here for that first gameplay. But what happens on the second gameplay? Because that gets reset, right? So this is going to change. So it's almost like we need, like like level 1 num moves 1 to associated with game 1. Oh gosh, I don't know. We have to think through this a little bit. Because I can't use, here's what I mean. I can't do this. Still level 1, but what happens is those two values are going to be the same. I need a holder. I either need a holder or I need a variable for each game played at each level. And then, like I said before, to keep things here, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to have to sketch this out because I don't want to spend a lot of time going back and forth if I'm not sure. So this would be like, that'd be a 1. And then we just say your max number of game plays per level is 5. If you can't win in 5 games, then the game starts over. The whole game starts over. What do you think? And then best score down at the bottom. Do we put best score at the top? I think so. Let's move all this down. Holy cow, an hour's already gone? Holy cow. Okay, well, I'm set up for tomorrow. We're going tomorrow, 4 days this week. I can't do Wednesday. And this is best game. So this would be 1 best game. Let's play level 1 to see what happens when we click on. Oh, I gotta do target project. All right, so if I go to my scores right now, everything's 0. Oh, I added the 1s. It's not going to show. Well, it don't matter. Yeah. I already see what's going to happen here. I already see what's happening. So here, let's just do, we'll do this, and we'll come back over here. You know, like that, and there's 1 game, and we go this way, and then this way, and then this way, and that's game 2, and then this is game 3, and now I want to see my scores. Yeah, best game 3, number of games I played was 3. Now, number of moves per game. Gonna have to have some kind of another holder. But see, that's golly, I'm gonna have to think about that hard because there's another thing that's got me thinking. You see how we've got this down here? So every time I start a new game, if this was level 1, then I would have to swap out this text box to show a different variable, or hide and show different based on what the game is. Then I have to put a different score here, and then I'd have to mess with. Now that's got to get over to this one during that game. That's just a lot of extra stuff. It's sort of a trickle down effect, and it all comes to it's whether or not now I want to do score per games. I mean, I don't have to do that, but if I add that component to the overall score, then there's a lot more domino effect that's going to happen in all of the levels. So I'm going to give that some more thought. I'm going to scribble on it and see if that's even worth the effort. I mean, everything's got value. I mean, it's fun. It could be something we can add later. It's not going to affect gameplay, and I can certainly show best game and number of games. I mean, that's easy. But the best game's always going to be the win. Not really. I guess if you check your score before, before you win, then you'll see whatever your best game is at that time. But remember, if I check my scores in the middle of a game, everything resets. It's getting all kinds of complicated, but it's fun. Gotta go, Kelly. All right, buddy. Thanks. I'm out too. What time is it? We're right at the top of the hour. So, thanks for joining. Hang on. I was gonna do a play test. I think I'll still do the play test. I'm gonna turn off the overall scores component for now because it just doesn't work. And then I'm gonna publish this out and publish a link for play testing. And we'd love it if y'all take a gander at it and offer some feedback. So that being said, thanks for joining. Happy Monday. Hope everybody's doing okay. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.